awake yet.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2.
High tide.
Check. I guess I could just go to the freaking video. Let it sit.
Oh, God. It's a damn production we got going on.
I mean, it is a high budget film out here.
What do you mean that's not my fucking patch? The damn production we got going on.
I mean, it is a high budget film out here.
What do you mean that's not my fucking patch?
All right, well, that works.
Yep, we're
working.
We're kicking.
We're kicking. We're just firing on all cylinders right now.
All cylinders. You can't tell me otherwise. Not at all in shambles at the moment.
Yep. Bear with us. I know the screen's on, but we'll get started here in a second. I'm drastically underprepared.
Just like the NC State Wolfpack for tonight's game in Atlanta, Georgia.
Maybe if I didn't wear a hat every week, you could see me better. But then I'd have to actually
what's the point of that?
Do my hair and things.
Oh, please work, computer.
All right. Do I want to throw this link out anywhere else? Probably.
All right, so ESPN loads just fine. What about the thing I actually need?
This link out anywhere else.
I'm driving the struggle bus right now.
Bro, I'm not far behind you, my guy.
God, these uniforms are so terrible. This is about to be really stupid when I start talking about how I hate our black uniforms when I'm wearing a black NC State hat. But they're nice. They're just not us. And I don't know why we're wearing something about white helmets with black jerseys never feels right. All right. I am up to speed.
All right. I think I'm there as well.
Thank you for tuning in to this riveting content while we get our act together.
All right. Welcome to the Down East Sports College Football Show, Week 13, and we're heading out west, sucker.
Yeah, we are.
To play North Texas Mean Green.
Yeah, we are.
If you're on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. If you're on Twitter, like, retweet, tell a friend.
DMs exist.
Feel free to put things in the chat. I love how we're both wearing red. This was not coordinated
I wish we were
at
matching
all.
a little more.
Should I put I could put my Red Wings hat on. We could just be the inverse.
I was going to say, I should have brought a state hat for you.
I did give the pick last week. I had 6 picks for last week.
Yeah.
When I went back through my FanDuel account, I just somehow took 7, one of them being this game.
Very nice.
And then wrote that game down and did not – they were losers anyways.
And me, the NC State fan, heard you and was in agreement with you and just didn't even think twice about it.
Man, it was a quick show last week.
And we were dying.
For that riveting game that we watched.
Oh, my God. The problem is it was riveting in all the
wrong ways.
That was a greasy football game. I hated every second of it.
There he is.
Hey, buddy.
Hey. You're just like the rest of us right now. You can just walk behind us. I mean, it
who
don't
cares?
Really matter.
We're just
getting started.
No, we're not even.
Oh,
God!
Excitement.
We're gonna get the
Down East Sports after dark. Come find us on OnlyFans.
Heavens.
Before I forget, this episode is brought to you by the one and only wide receiver for 4 different NFL teams.
Something like that.
3, 4. Either way, it's dedicated to Allen Robertson.
There you
I'd
go.
like to
Yeah,
appreciate the fact that somehow we knew his stats in a freakish way last night.
Come to sports trivia on Mondays
Yeah.
at the Buck and Wednesdays at Bella Green.
Yeah,
You'll
you were-
understand some niche references.
Yeah, good old Clip Brock does a great job there. But
Hero.
yeah, welcome. I don't know how much time we want to spend. I know I put it question marks next to it on our little prep sheet.
I'd like to spend some time talking about it, but
I mean, I'm just angry. I'm objectively angry.
which I get, but
Well, and you and I listen to a lot of the same stuff.
we do.
So this is probably not the second time you're hearing this. But, all right, me being a Georgia fan, being behind Alabama and being behind Ole Miss doesn't bother me at all.
That makes sense.
We have better wins than them. They beat us.
You lost.
They beat us. And I mean,
And the
it's
committee-
hard to argue that.
And the committee has shown that for the most part, even though we won't talk about how SMU is ranked one spot ahead of BYU.
Yeah, that's another. We're talking about things that anger me. That's on my
Exactly.
list of things that anger me. The fact that SMU is not in the top 12 right now.
But-
I don't know what the committee is looking at because apparently good wins don't matter. Strength of schedule doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Bad losses don't matter. All that matters is the total number of wins you have in the win column, the total amount of losses you have in the loss column. And if we're doing that, let's just go back to the BCS era. What are we doing here?
Well, I think honestly, they're kind of coming at it with somewhat of a more. Obviously, the BCS wasn't a thought process; it was a computer.
Yeah.
But like, I feel like it's somewhat of a BCS type thought process, just based on you look at the teams with the best records in the country, aside from obviously Army, who's down all the way at 19. But like, they're looking a lot at head-to-head. They're factoring in resumes, not quite as much as they were for a 14 class because they don't have to as much.
I still
They
don't
should
even think they're
more, I
factoring
think. But
because I can punch holes in almost every team except for one right now. There's one team in my mind, and they're the number one team in the country.
yeah,
It's the only team in the country you cannot poke holes in.
exactly. But
All
that's
right,
the problem.
Texas is number 3 in the country. Who the blank have they beat? Who in the
No one.
fuck have they beat? I can't even hold back on saying it. Who have they beat?
Nobody.
Ohio State, their best win's Penn State. Who the hell has Penn State played?
I think honestly, aside from Ohio State, I think the biggest game of the season is this coming weekend against Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, which we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll get to that. I'm fired up this week. And all right, I get it. Georgia's got 2 losses. They're not going to host. I'm upset. Blah blah blah
They
blah blah.
still, they could.
I don't think they can. I don't think there's a chance in hell. They need a lot of things to go their way.
I've seen stuff about Georgia being a 5 seed.
How? There's no way they can make it to the conference championship game.
Oh God, we're running the reverse.
They should have thrown it. It's not NCAA.
Hey, we just got a play with positive yards. We
I
don't
wanna
seem to
see
do
if
that
I
near
can-
as much as we should, so I'll take that.
I want to see if I can pull up this tweet I found. I read it out. I read it out to my dad. I lost it now. But Texas has played out of their 8 SEC games. They've played 7 of the worst teams in the conference.
Yeah.
The only upper echelon SEC team they played at home and they lost, and they kind of got the brakes beat off.
They lost decisively.
And then Tennessee has been kind of bolstered up all year. This defense is great. Well, Georgia took them to the woodshed in the second half.
Oh yeah,
I mean, Georgia flat out outmanned them for 4 quarters.
exactly.
And I just don't get it. I really don't understand what's going on. I'd like to walk back my take on Ole Miss, and that really has nothing to do with how – well, it does have to do with them beating us, but more of how they beat us.
Yeah.
That defensive front's scary.
No, yeah.
And if Jackson Dart plays a halfway decent game, that's a team I don't want to play in the playoffs.
Not even a little bit.
In all honesty, if I'm Oregon, the only teams that are going to make it that really scare me are maybe Georgia and Ole Miss.
The problem
Maybe
is,
Ohio State
I was about
again.
to say
I'm
quite
starting to
possibly
think Texas isn't very good.
they might not be, but quite possibly with
Touchdown
Oregon.
in CJ.
Yeah, CJ Bailey rushing touchdown. That's what we like to see. Where was I going? Okay, so Oregon. I think the team that they have to be the most scared about is the team that they would probably wind up playing in the semifinals with the way it works out. It's a team they already beat by 1. It's Ohio State.
Yeah.
I think Ohio State probably is the most complete team in the country. But because we talked about how Oregon's the only team you can't poke holes in. You kind of could.
Yeah, I mean, they got off to a slow start at the beginning of the year. But
that resume, they haven't lost, but they had some tight wins. Like Idaho took them to the brink.
Yeah.
Boise State had them on the ropes.
Ohio State won 1 point game.
They beat Ohio State by 1 at home. Wisconsin
hung with them. Yeah,
they gave them all they could handle. So
that was one of my lost stats last week.
Yeah.
But
it's the thing I love though. I don't care where teams are or whatnot. I don't care if Indiana is the 5 seed. They're not going to be, but whatever. I don't care
Ohio
who.
State will be.
I think so too. I don't care who's where.
Unless they.
I love
what
this
happens
chaos.
If they,
this is beautiful.
It is prime chaos.
It's so college football, and I don't know why we've been waiting to bring this expanded playoff. I was against it at first, but now with all these scenarios that it's presenting, I love it because I don't have to make the decisions. I can just see what happens.
I wasn't a huge favor of 12. I wanted to jump to 6. I thought when they announced 4, I always thought 6 was the magic number.
I thought 8 was.
And I remember you and I talking about that years ago. I have no problem with the 12-team playoff, the format, any of that. I have a problem with how the bye structure works.
I do too.
Because the fact that we're going to see, let's say Miami wins, because now I'm really hoping and praying SMU just beats the brakes off of them and just bye. Because I don't think Miami's any good.
No, I hope SMU kills them.
And
welcome to the ACC, SMU.
So, all right, let's say Oregon wins Big Ten.
Yeah.
They get a bye. Okay, they deserve it.
Yeah.
All right, Texas wins. They get a bye. All right, they probably deserve it. They probably deserve it. All right, then we're going to give a bye to SMU, who maybe deserves it. Do you give it to Colorado? Do you give it to Arizona State? The Big 12's a mess.
We're going to talk about
or they could get jumped
by
a G5.
Exactly.
Who might not be Boise State.
No, well, Boise State's going to make it regardless. I think.
Yes.
I don't think UNLV is going to beat them in conference championship.
Which I know what you're hinting towards. There's
Exactly.
a way that
I
two
will
group
get
of
to
5
this
teams
later.
get in, and we'll get there. And just to not get there, we want to jump into the ECU game.
That's fine. Yeah. Before we get too ahead of ourselves, let's talk about the absolute.
Pick! Oh, that was a great play. I think it hit the ground.
I don't think it did. I think it hit his arm. Hold on. We're going to pause 10 seconds for station identification here.
You are live on the Down East Sports Network.
Any plumbing services that want to sponsor us? This is your time to shine right here.
Can't see anything there. That's a nice view of someone's butt.
Devin Van's ass is.
Oh, look, it was Miami's defense.
Big old ass.
Bear with us here. We'll see if this hits the ground. Yes.
Yes, it hit the ground.
Yeah, I'd say,
Just barely, though. I mean,
it bounced off the ground.
Well, no, I'm saying it was very close to just landing on his arm instead. Okay, moving on. We are all over the place. Thank you for bearing with us.
It's been a massive show in the first 14 minutes.
Firing on all cylinders here.
First full-length show in a while. Just off the hinges.
Okay. Big fat tight end for Georgia Tech. Moving on. I'm not going to watch that.
Yeah.
I'm going to get to the absolute chaos that took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma on Thursday last week. We were way off on our prediction.
Yeah, I forgot to write down Tulsa's score. Was it 36, 35?
No, we had 30.
38, 38.
I know we had 38.
38, 31, right?
Was it 31 or 34?
God bless America. We're bad at our
I thought we
were
were a touchdown.
Again, just
we are not operating at full capacity. For someone who thought they was going to lose their voice before the show, I sure managed to yell during that playoff segment, and my throat is killing me at the moment. It was 38-31.
Okay.
Sorry about that. ECU, 12 penalties for 125 yards, 4 turnovers, but yet had 536 yards of offense, gave up almost 400 yards, 399 to be exact. And I think that we were talking about this because all three of us watched the game together. Joseph Williams for Tulsa, can't wait to see where he's playing next year because it ain't going to be in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
You will catch him in the SEC.
5 receptions for 158 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Just absolutely torched us all night.
By far the worst game Hauser's played all season.
Oh, he was gross.
First bad performance he's put up. I don't think there's much cause for concern, though. I mean, there were some bad balls. Defense wasn't great, but he down the stretch was what he needed to be, which ended up being the difference maker in this game.
100%.
I mean, that final drive.
That was. He let his nuts drag a little bit, like we had seen in the games prior. But like you said, it's not even a nothing gain, nothing loss. We gained bowl eligibility for this game. It was Blake Harrell's first road game.
Mm-hmm.
It was an ECU game at Tulsa, which we know how those tend to go, and it's exactly in the same vein, at least, of what happened on Thursday. We knew that there was definitely a possibility of some just absolute nonsense going on. We got plenty of nonsense. I think this is obviously we won the game. Doesn't matter how we won the game.
Yeah.
But even if we want to dive a little deeper and just look at how we won and just look at the performance overall, I think we didn't play well for a lot of that game, but I think it's excusable. Like you said.
I got some things that will from this game that will play into our preview at the end of the show. So I don't want to ruin too much. Definitely got to clean up the penalties, though.
Definitely.
Got that 12 penalties, and now as much as we didn't agree with all of them, a lot of unsportsmanlike. Just a gross football game to watch for as high scoring as it was.
If you're a neutral fan, it was beautiful. If you're a sicko like that, you had an awesome time watching that game. If you're an ECU fan, it was not fun at all.
No.
Until 000 hit the clock.
I mean, it came down to the legitimate end. They were they were on the 4 or 5 yard line.
We had to make a goal line stand.
Yeah. And, as bad as the defense was, they, at the end of the game, just like the offense, were there when we needed them most. And, we're going bowling. Hopefully in Myrtle Beach, because you don't want to go to Birmingham, and I don't want to go to Annapolis.
No, you will not catch me in Birmingham for reasons unspoken. You'll catch me in Myrtle Beach or Annapolis, the Military Bowl, or
that's where I kept calling it the Liberty Bowl, but I knew that was.
Yeah, I ain't going to Memphis. Yeah. No,
you will not talk about a weirdly cold city.
You won't catch me. You won't catch me on O Block. I promise you that. But
weirdly cold city.
That doesn't surprise me.
I think it's on a river.
It is. It's on the Mississippi.
Oh,
there you go. But yeah, if we're
go back to licking windows.
If we're at the Military Bowl or the Myrtle Beach Bowl, you'll catch me there. Not that this team isn't worth traveling distances for. I'm just stating my personal opinions.
What about the Gasparilla Bowl?
Is that in New Orleans?
No, it's in Tampa.
That's in Tampa.
I'm not going all the way up. I can't afford to go to Florida. There's
someone that lives about 2.5 hours south.
I can't afford to get to Florida.
Man, plane tickets are cheap.
I'm not getting on.
I'm not going to the Spirit, baby.
I've seen us in the Cure Bowl again. I'm not going to Florida. I've seen us in the Orlando. I've seen us in the Gasparilla Bowl. You definitely won't catch me going to the Gump. You will not catch me in Montgomery, Alabama. Myrtle Beach or
Annapolis.
Those are.
I've heard the Fenway Bowl be mentioned as well.
That would be cool, but that's just too far.
That's too far. That's too cold for me.
But I'd like to go to the military if we can potentially win out and earn a spot there, just because of what happened with the Boston College game a couple years back. So
is Boston College Bowl eligible?
They're close.
Could we get some justice?
I'll touch on Boston College in a little bit.
Could we get justice on Boston College in the military bowl?
The problem is we don't beat them.
A
couple years ago, we might not beat them for playing this year.
Well,
we could though. We definitely could.
Castellanos might not play.
It's fair.
Or I don't think he is playing because he's transferring.
But so didn't he announce?
Yeah, he announced
he was done.
That's true. Yeah. I don't care. I'm still on this week.
That's about all I got on ECU Tulsa there.
Yeah, a little potential bowl preview.
Yeah, I'd like to forget about that game and maybe have those 4.5 hours of my life back.
Yeah, I'm just glad we won.
I mean, I'm very happy that we won.
I didn't care how we did.
I will say before we move on, no, I'll save it for the preview. I'll save it for the preview.
There you go.
I caught myself there. All right, week 12, little recap. Clemson 24, Pitt 20.
Pitt should have won that game.
Yeah.
You can't let Cade Klubnik at the end of the game beat you with his legs.
That's something. Yeah, Clemson the last 2 weeks has not looked great.
No,
I
don't. It would take because all
who gets because SMU's in right now,
they're not confirmed in.
but they don't have a conference loss.
True, but if they lose one of their next 2 games and Miami does the same, Clemson's into because Clemson doesn't have another conference game.
Yeah,
So Clemson's in if either of these teams lose.
my question is,
or if either of these teams lose out.
Yeah,
But it should end up being SMU Miami.
that's what I was wondering.
But
I didn't
Clemson
know
definitely is
Clemson
still
would
not
get it
out
over
of it.
Miami.
They're not out of it yet.
Yeah, lackluster from Clemson against an above average Pitt team, a good team for Pitt.
Decent team.
The one that I wish I had a bigger set of cojones, and I kind of mentioned I thought it was a sneaky spot for LSU last week. I wish I had taken the Gators outright
because I felt it.
And I felt this just screamed LSU losing. We'll get to something a little more in this game in real or fake, but LSU 16, Florida wins in the swamp with 27 points. And Napier's got a talented roster there. Still don't love him as a coach, but he seems to be recruiting really well.
He can recruit
and
very well.
DJ looks like he could be legit. I'm very curious about what happens with Florida this weekend against Ole Miss, if they can hang with them at all.
Yeah.
And they're going to end up beating Florida State. They're going to make a bowl game, which I don't think at the beginning of the season a lot of people would have said.
No.
Meanwhile, as my resident Louisiana State fan has told me, he's ready for Brian to get fired.
Yeah,
we'll speak more on that in a second.
He doesn't fit with that team.
He never fit.
He doesn't fit with the SEC as a whole. Just let him go.
Yeah, it just
he's gonna get you can let him go. He'll still get another high-end job. He's not a bad coach. He's just not a good fit.
No.
And so he worked at Notre Dame when he could kill kids and all that. But
yeah,
we'll let that one simmer for a second. But
not enough. Catholics, man. Catholics and kids.
Yeah. What a just crazy episode of the Downey Sports College Football Show that you've tuned into, and we appreciate you doing.
Move to probably
this episode might be on a new channel after this nonsense.
Move us to what was probably the game of the week. Tennessee heads into Athens to play Georgia. Georgia 31, Tennessee 17. Like I mentioned in my rant, an utter ass whooping of Tennessee for the 8th year in a row. Feels like 98 until they got to play the Dogs.
Yeah.
It's just as good as they think they are. I love reminding them that they haven't won a national championship while any of us have been alive.
It is true.
And as someone that had to watch it with a Tennessee fan chirping me, it was really great when we started to score.
Oh, I bet.
And it was just like, best game Carson Beck's played all year. Defense still looks stout.
Either that or the Clemson game.
Wouldn't want to play the Dogs
late
in the year.
No. And that's something when the committee finally starts taking resumes into more account. That's a game that they're going to look at, assuming Tennessee takes care of business the rest of the way.
Which they should. I mean,
Tennessee's a fringe playoff team. I don't know.
I think they got a cupcake this week. Yeah, they're on the outside looking in right now.
Yeah.
I think they got a cupcake, and then they got Vandy, which, God, would it be funny if Vandy beat LSU?
I think it's at Vandy. I think Vandy, Tennessee is at Vandy.
Imagine if Vandy beats LSU this weekend, and you got
that would be beautiful.
What it would be? They'd be 7-3 or 8-3 Vandy.
That'd be beautiful.
Versus 10-1 Tennessee or 9-2 Tennessee.
I was about to say they damn near have the same record. And Vanderbilt, you could argue, has played a tougher schedule.
Yeah. And then the other game that we spoke, upset alert. BYU's looked rough lately, and neither of us had the guts to do it.
Nope.
Kansas goes into BYU Stadium, beats them 17-13, and after 2 or 3 weeks in a row of BYU just trying to give games away, it finally happens.
Yeah. And we'll touch on Kansas a little bit more in a minute, and BYU.
Yeah, they're both.
Jalen Daniels recently, even though he had just a god-awful start to the season the last couple of weeks, he's
turned it on.
He's looked like
Jalen looked like Matt's playing with him in NCAA.
There you go.
Yeah, that's about all I got from the slate last week. Trying to think if there was anything else.
I mean, Oregon, Wisconsin.
Yeah, Oregon, Wisconsin was a nail biter. It's really all I can think of.
That's the worst Oregon has looked, at least in a long
that's the
while.
most
Since the
very
beginning of the season,
pedestrian.
it's the worst that they've looked.
But
But then again, they did what good teams do and find ways to win, even when they're not
playing their
very
A
well,
game. Yep. Move us into real or flake.
There we go.
Real or fake, not flake. This episode brought to you by Frosted Flakes.
There you go. Kellogg's, don't say
No,
a word.
just kidding.
we are lying.
Yeah. Clemson, real or fake?
I mean,
I tried to do some outside looking in teams.
real or fake in what context?
Are they a playoff team?
No.
Okay.
I don't think they have a chance in hell of making the playoffs.
Because
they don't have any. I mean, they go out there and trounce South Carolina, which I don't think that they're going to do. Then that's something for the committee to look at, because that's a South Carolina team that's quite possibly the hottest team in the country. And even though it took everything in their power to beat Mizzou with, honestly, probably the best – that was honestly the game of the week.
Yeah.
Mizzou, that's probably the best performance. That's probably the best performance that they've had all season.
All year.
In Columbia. They play at home.
Columbia,
South Carolina.
Yeah.
For South Carolina to just basically march down the field, and that Rocket Sanders touchdown, just to him playing bully ball. Again, did what good teams do and figured out a way to win. So if Clemson goes in, or if South Carolina goes into Clemson and just embarrasses themselves, that's something that the committee will look at in favor of Clemson. But outside of that, I don't think so. I think they're going to be stuck on the outside looking in.
Indiana, real or fake?
We will find out this weekend.
I'll let you know they're fake. I'm spoiling something.
They're fake in regards to.
I ain't played nobody.
They're going to be in the playoff. They need.
Are they?
I don't think they're going to go out there and get their asses handed to them by Ohio State. We'll touch on that. I think Ohio State wins that game, which again, spoiler alert.
But I'm gonna bring it up twice. I'm pretty sure.
But this Indiana team's good, man. They haven't played nobody, but the teams that they played, but they've killed damn near everybody.
Yeah.
Again, they did what good teams do and handle business. Not only different than finding ways to win, they go out there and kill the teams that they're supposed to kill.
They trounce teams.
So I think Indiana, I think, is a playoff team. In my opinion, they are. It's going to be weird figuring out their seeding and all that, but I think that Indiana's done plenty to earn a spot in the playoff.
Tennessee, real or fake?
I think they're on the outside looking in the playoff.
I mean, they're on the outside looking in. I still think Tennessee's a solid football team.
They are, but I just don't think that
I think they're a playoff caliber team.
Maybe.
They're better than freaking Notre Dame.
Yeah.
They're better than Boise State. They're better than Miami.
Boise State's better than you think they are.
They're better than Miami.
Well, yeah. If we want to talk about Miami real or fake, which we've already done this.
It's the last one on here. We can go ahead and eliminate that. Miami, real quick. Fraud. Not even fake, just fraud. Learn how to play defense.
But I don't know. Let's. If we want to talk about resumes here, let's pull up Tennessee's just schedule. Obviously, they
have one of the better wins in the country.
They do. Thank you for that, Matthew. They have. I mean, I hate the term quality losses. They lost to Arkansas.
They did lose to Arkansas.
They were in a dogfight with a Florida team that hadn't really figured anything out yet.
Still think Florida's better than everyone's giving them credit.
No, I completely agree with you. I'm just saying that version of Florida was not
right. That was the start of it, though.
That's
when it started to turn around for Florida.
They were at home against Kentucky. I mean, they beat.
Who's played good teams close all year?
They have. But then again, I mean, that Ole Miss has one of the worst losses.
Yeah, Ole Miss has the two worst losses of any playoff team.
Yeah, that was crazy.
I mean, that is the thing. Ole Miss might have one of the best wins, but their two losses are
atrocious. They're terrible. Like, not them being Ole Miss, them being Ole Miss's losses.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to talk about playing a non-conference schedule.
Well, yeah.
Chattanooga, an NC State team that turned out to be bad, which isn't their fault. 'Cause NC State was supposed to be good.
Yeah.
The definitive worst team in the country, Kent State, they beat them 70-1-0, and then they get UTEP this week, who's also just
they're
terrible.
out of conference is a joke, but
then I mean, you look at the conference, they've played Oklahoma, who stinks, Arkansas, who's not very good, Florida, who's very talented but not a very good, not a very well coached team, Kentucky, Mississippi State. Yeah, they beat Alabama. Good for them. They kind of got taken to school by Georgia. I think Tennessee has somewhat of at least a comparable resume to those teams that people are dogging on. They have the Alabama win, who lost to Vanderbilt.
Yeah, Alabama with a bad loss, but 2 good wins.
I agree. That's what this whole chaos thing that I love is. And I don't envy these decision makers whatsoever, because we're gonna scream at them and point at them for whoever they put in and whoever they leave out. The SEC as a conference is especially going to do that.
It's going to be mad
because it's probably going to be Tennessee that they're whining and crying about because of I don't know. Too many SEC teams have lost to bad teams.
Yeah.
Too many good SEC teams have lost to bad SEC teams.
Last one I got here. Brian Kelly is the coach of the Louisiana Tigers.
Do they want
next season?
It all hinges on do they want to shell out the money to buy him out? Because he shouldn't be. They have the money. Do they want to spend that money? I don't, because he's got a good recruiting class, doesn't he?
I think he's got a decent one. Let me look at 24/7 real quick.
At that point, you'd be losing at least a few of those guys, most likely. You'd be losing him, who's a good coach, but he's just not the right fit for that team. But is he a good enough fit for the time being? Obviously,
he was currently 6th.
Exactly. That's almost a top 5 recruiting class. LSU, down year, but if he can, I mean, he's doing everything he can to just recruit his way to wins, which obviously didn't work this year. But that team, as we talked about, it didn't look like it at first, but as we talked about before the season, that team regressed from last year. And that was
drastic.
That team last year wasn't that good, but their offense was so good that it kept them in every single game. But the defense also kept other teams in the game with them. But they figured out ways to win a few of those games. But that should have been a national championship contending team, and they just weren't.
Yeah.
This season, they don't have Jaden Daniels, obviously, which you lose a Heisman Trophy quarterback, whatever. I just don't think that he's capable of coaching a team to – he or his defensive coordinator, whoever it is on any given year, because it's different from last year, this year. I just don't know if he's good enough to get them over a certain threshold that they'd like to be at. But that's a tough question. Should he be? No. Will he be? I
think he'll still be there to their dismay.
I think so too.
I think he'll still be the coach. Hop into the slate here. Somewhat of a lackluster. I'm gonna call it Sleepy Saturday.
Okay. I
don't think there's a lot of.
We'll see.
I don't want to call them huge games because there's games that have playoff implications.
Yeah.
But they're not these name brand matchups.
Exactly. There's not a lot of just marquee matchups.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good matchups though that you might not think about if you're not just a diehard college football guy. One of the games we're not going to talk about that I'll just briefly mention real quick. Where did it go?
That got just left off.
I just saw it. Well, we talked about Vandy LSU. That could be a very exciting game.
That I just
A&M at Auburn is.
I think that's a sneaky. I almost took Auburn.
This is one of those weekends where it's the better matchups probably not going to be the best games, but it's those more under the radar ones. I'm freaking out trying to find this game that I
put Auburn on my pick 6.
I've made a mental note of this game and just never. Oh. Illinois at Rutgers.
Yeah.
I think that game has so much potential to just be a gross, sicko football game, and I'll probably be doing whatever I can to at least be keeping up with that game because I will not be watching college football this weekend, admittedly. But oh well, it happens.
But I'll jump into the game of the week. Indiana is heading into Columbus, Ohio to take on the Buckeyes. Buckeyes 12.5-point favorites, 52.5 is the total. This is a big prove-it spot for Indiana.
Huge.
Prove-it spot. This is the biggest game I'd say Indiana's ever played in their football history.
Yeah, I don't know what they were doing back with leather helmets and all that.
Yeah,
but this in the modern history of Indiana football, this is 100% the biggest game.
Ohio State's down their starting center.
Yep.
See if that
which they've had issues with
offensive
injuries
line
on the offensive line all year, but it hasn't affected them to quite the extent that people.
It looked like it did against Nebraska, but then you saw them get right the next week. Exactly. I mean, it was just
exactly.
You and I are on two completely different sides here.
Not completely different.
Without ruining my pick six, I think Ohio State just goat rodeos them.
Yeah.
I don't think it's from the word go, but I think come halfway through the third quarter, you're going to see a separation of talent.
Probably.
And Ohio State's going to put the foot down on their throats.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to get nasty in there.
The thing, that's just Ohio State is a more talented team, and they have more name brand talent. But Indiana has enough talent to keep this a game for at least a very large portion of it, I think. Will they? I don't know. I have Ohio State winning the game.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and just say that now. I think Indiana makes this a lot more of an interesting game than people give them credit for. From a gambling perspective, I'm not touching this with a 50-foot pole. I know you are. You're touching it with your fingers.
Uh-huh.
But
I just touched it.
Yeah, exactly. But, I mean, 2 top 5 rushing defenses in the country. Problem is, Ohio State has the ability to lean on their pass game. I think they're going to do that, considering they have a top 5 defense on both the rushing and passing side of the ball. Indiana's pass defense ranks about 27th, which is still good. That's still around the top 25 in the country. But Ohio State is going to probably have a little bit more ability to move the ball through the air down the field. Indiana's going to have to just basically see if they can run with them and keep up. Indiana can still run the ball, I mean, at will. They're not going to have to pass it, but in certain scenarios they are. IU can win this game, I think, for sure. But it's going to take everything. It's going to take a not great game from Ohio State. It's going to take a near perfect game from Indiana. Indiana's going to have to make a statement early, I think, to give themselves a long-term chance in this game. It's going to have to, like you talked about from the word go, Indiana's going to have to be on the P's and Q's to start this game and see if they can do anything to settle that crowd down as much as humanly possible, because they're going to make it hell for that Indiana team. At least they're going to do everything they can. So I don't know. I like Ohio State in this game. I think Indiana keeps it close though.
Which Big Ten did you flip? All right, never mind. I got what I needed. I saw what I needed to see.
There you go.
BYU is going to Arizona State. Arizona State, the favorite by 3 points. 48.5 the total. And hate to break it to you, I think I'll let Paul tell you what might happen, but I think this is the beginning of the end for the Big 12.
Yeah.
I like Arizona State in this game. I'm not going to bet it, but
my first note is Arizona State wins, plain and simple.
Yeah.
I just think they're going to – I talked about South Carolina being one of the hottest teams in the country.
Arizona State's clicking.
Arizona State's one of them, too.
Yeah.
This team is firing. BYU coming off a not very good loss, too. We both admit a decent Kansas team that's finding their stride, but still not a great loss to have late in the season when you're basically desperate to get into the playoff now, to get to your own conference championship game.
Yeah.
But I think this game, Arizona State wins this game. BYU falls out of the playoff race, and Arizona State is basically the only hope, I think, for the Big 12 because of the game that we will get to in just a second.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to jump there,
I don't know how much else you got on that?
I don't have much.
All right.
Yeah.
We can jump into Colorado at Kansas.
3-point favorite Colorado, 59.5 the total.
I love Kansas in this spot. I love them.
And you know what? So do I. Not going to say anything else. I like Kansas in this spot. I don't know. I don't know if they can do it back-to-back weeks.
I don't know either, but they've been showing just drastic improvements over the last few weeks that make me think, since this game is at home, it's gonna be packed because Deion's coming to town.
Yeah.
And Travis Hunter's coming to town. The crowd, hopefully, which we don't say a lot with Kansas. We did a couple years ago when they first had their
run. Yeah.
I think the crowd, whether it does or not, they need to
try to make a difference.
Belligerent in this game. make it
take a page out of ECU's book and get abundantly drunk.
Exactly. Colorado could come into this game with too much of that. It's hard to say the word swagger, even that's exactly what it is. It doesn't feel right, but the bravado that they've had all season, and not enough maybe attention to detail, because if that sideline gets any word of what's going, I can't remember what the game times are, but if that sideline gets any word of what's going down, I know BYU and Arizona State is at 3:30. That sideline hears about what's going on in that game, that might be an issue. If they see that BYU loses, they might think that they're comfortable.
Time.
Oh, really?
3:30 kicks.
Okay. Regardless, I think this is a very good spot for Kansas in the trap game of all trap games for Colorado. Yeah. And I'll just go ahead and jump into it. We could get into the wackiest scenario possible, where two Group 5 teams are in the college football playoff this year, where Boise State is just about a lock. I don't see them losing any of the rest of their games. I see them getting a first-round bye. And if the BYU, how about if the Big 12 basically cannibalizes itself this week, which is a definite possibility.
Yeah.
Which it could happen next week.
I don't like the word to bring up an old argument on unnecessary roughness. I don't know if cannibalize is the right word. If they shoot themselves in their own foot.
There you go.
If they pull a rabbit from 8 Mile.
There you go.
And the Big 12 did shoot themselves with their own gun.
However,
I think you'll get jumped by all 6 of you chums. Sorry, I love that movie.
If they eat themselves, if they Plaxico Burress themselves, doesn't matter. however you want to say it, that opens the door. Especially if Army beats Notre Dame this weekend, that opens the door for the American. And I think Tulane, there's a decent chance that they're actually the best team in the Power 5.
Yeah. And
Boise State has far and away the best player in the Group of 5. I mean, Boise State has the best player in the Group of 5 without question. I think they have the best player in the country. Tulane is a damn good football team.
Yeah, and I guess the icing
is they're gonna hold their loss at home to Kansas State against them.
Yeah,
it's the only thing
not a great loss.
Exactly, but none of this scenario could matter whatsoever. But it's one that's definitely on the table. So I think it's something. These two Big 12 games are massive. If you're looking for games with implications, these are the two, as well as
the last
one we're going to get into now,
which would be the icing on the cake for your dream scenario there.
Exactly.
Army is technically at Notre Dame, I think.
It's
being played in Yankee Stadium.
It's a whole lot closer to Army than it is to Notre Dame.
I don't know what's.
But I think Notre Dame
doesn't play on the road anymore. Not only do they get a cupcake-ass schedule, they just don't have to play road games and get handed a playoff spot, even though they lost to the number 7 MAC team, who has 4 wins. 3?
4, I want to say.
Yeah.
I think they had 2 MAC
talking about the worst loss in the top 10.
Yeah. If we're talking about resumes and bad losses or quality losses, there's a lot
of things. They don't even have a quality win anymore.
Loss. No, A&M's not. I mean, that's a decent win.
They're board-stringing them up. They're doing the same thing with Missouri for Alabama right now. They're board-stringing that up.
Exactly. But
Notre Dame 14.5-point favorites, 44.5 is the total. If that tells you anything about how Army's played football games this year, they don't get scored on. Make sure I'm not going to be a chump here. I did not take it. I really thought about taking it.
I am not taking it.
I don't think Army wins this game.
I don't either.
I think Army keeps it within the number.
I think they have a much better chance of keeping this game close than Indiana does at Ohio State.
Yeah, I think Army can legitimately keep this within the number. 2 scores, I think, is just too much.
Yeah.
I don't think Notre Dame's very good.
They're definitely not the 6th best team in the country.
I don't even think they're the 15th best team in the country.
They probably are. I'm just saying they're ranked 6th right now, which, to be fair, BYU was last week. But
Miami's ranked ahead of Georgia. Again, you want to tell me this playoff committee knows what the hell they're looking at? Because I sure don't think so.
They do not. They haven't. They didn't know in any of the 14 years.
No,
it's just part of the course.
Yeah, I think Army finds a way to keep this close. I just don't think they have the sheer manpower to win this game outright.
I don't believe so either. But we've seen Notre Dame play this season. We've seen Notre Dame play well this season. Against who? We haven't seen them play well against probably anyone as good as Army.
No.
I think, especially anyone as unique as Army. Haven't played much of a schedule whatsoever, like I mentioned. They're as we also mentioned, they're very capable of losing to a G5 team, considering they lost to a not very good one at home. Now they almost on the road. I think it's going to be a Notre Dame crowd at this game, but Army, I think, is going to travel pretty well for this game.
Yeah, I'd assume so. I mean, looking through their schedule, week 1 they beat Texas A&M at Kyle Field. Okay.
Yeah.
Lost to Northern Illinois at home. Then go on to beat the mighty Purdue Boilermakers.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, they're so good.
The worst team in
Miami of Ohio, lose a close one at home to Louisville, beat Stanford, beat Georgia Tech. I think that was a neutral site game.
Did they lose to Louisville or beat Louisville?
Or beat Louisville, sorry. Beat Georgia Tech in what was not a true road game because it was in Mercedes-Benz.
Yep.
Beat at Navy, even though that was in like Dublin or something.
No, that was at Fenway.
MetLife.
That's right. I knew it was at a non-college football stadium.
Florida State, who's the laughingstock of the ACC. Virginia, who is somehow better than Florida State. This is going to be their only big matchup since A&M.
Yeah,
and you got
probably
lucky
a
you
worse
caught them
team.
week 1. Yeah,
probably a worse team than Army.
Yeah,
because Notre Dame doesn't pass the ball great. They don't pass it like super poorly.
No,
they run the ball.
They pass it way better than Navy does.
That's true. Well, I'm talking about Notre Dame.
Oh yeah,
Notre Dame runs the ball very well, but that's exactly what Army is equipped to stop. Considering that's all that they see really. Notre Dame not very great against the run, and Army is far and away the obviously most rushing yards per game because they run it all the time. Will that wear down this Notre Dame defense that's not fantastic at stopping the run?
Yeah.
Army has the tools to go out there and win this game. They just, I don't know if they have
I hope they do.
I hope they do so bad. Oh my God. I just don't know if they quite have the talent. But you could make an argument this is a better coach football team because I'm still not in love with Marcus Freeman.
Yeah.
And I think Monken is doing just a hell of a job with this Army team. So I don't know. Notre Dame probably wins this game. That's going to be my pick. Army has the opportunity to do something just absolutely chaotic. And it's not a bad opportunity either. That's all I got on that game.
Could set up the biggest AAC conference championship game of all time.
Oh, my God. One of the biggest, probably the biggest group of 5 conference championship. Who?
Army and Tulane.
No, Tulane plays Memphis.
That's right. Well, I know they not this week, but next week.
Yeah, next week.
Oh, they play Memphis next week?
Yeah, Tulane plays Memphis next week. That's who they end their season with, which Tulane could slip up and maybe ruin this whole conversation.
Yeah. But I think that kind of wraps it up for the slate, unless you got anything else.
I don't.
Hopping to the pick 6. You want it first?
I'm sure. I'll take it. Starting off with a game tomorrow night, not a Saturday game. San Jose State on the road. No, at home. San Jose State at home against the 23rd ranked running Rebels of UNLV. I like San Jose State in this spot. I think plus 7.5 is an all right number considering where they were against Boise State, which I think was also a home game. UNLV is a good team. I don't think that they're some great team in that conference. They're the second best team in that conference. They're, like I said, they're a good football team. I don't think that they're immune to losing that game whatsoever. I'm just taking the spread. I think San Jose State keeps that game close. Florida, I'm putting money on the Gators.
Yeah.
Florida plus 10.5 at home
A buy high spot
against Ole Miss. I like the Gators in this spot. This is another one where they could just go out there and win straight up.
Yeah.
10.5 feels
Tough place to play.
10.5 feels balloonish a little bit for this game. Ole Miss, we've seen them with bad losses. This would not be a great loss.
Yeah. I think Ole Miss rolls.
They just might.
Ole Miss's front seven's scary.
It is. I'm just saying, I like Florida to, at minimum, keep this game close. They have a potential to win that game.
I like your next one here.
Western Kentucky at Liberty.
That one a lot.
I'm taking the Hilltoppers of Western Kentucky money line in this game. I don't think Liberty is anything to write home about this season. I think Western Kentucky might be a better team than them, and they're the dog in this game. Give me Western Kentucky all day, because I think I haven't thought about caring to think about watching a Liberty game. That made sense, I promise. I can only assume that their fans have at least checked out somewhat compared to early in the season. I don't think they're going to be near as much of a factor as we're used to seeing them. I like Western Kentucky in that game outright. Texas Tech minus 3.5 against Oklahoma State. I think 3.5 is such a tiny number for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
This Texas Tech team, which I'll talk about in the uniform section too.
Yeah.
It's a pretty solid football team that has had some bad breaks. They've also just had some instances where they haven't played well. But I think they're a pretty talented team that can very easily at home beat a just god-awful Oklahoma State team.
Yeah.
Ghost of a program over there.
What happened? I can't even think of his name right now.
Gundy?
Ollie.
Oh,
Ollie Gordon.
Fluke last year. Just, I don't know if they're not using him right or if he just forgot how to play football, but it might be a combination of both. Exactly, yeah. That team as a whole is just sad. But moving on, Boston College plus 2.5 against Carolina. Will Castellanos play? Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think he's playing.
I don't care. This Carolina team isn't very good. They've been playing a little bit better lately.
Coming back,
They've been
man.
playing a little bit better lately. I just like Boston College in the spot a lot. I think it's a sleepy spot for Carolina, and Boston College can easily go out there and cover a field goal. And then finally, I'm kind of dogging on the state of Oklahoma. I like Alabama minus 13.5 at Oklahoma. I think that they just beat the tar piss of shit.
What does Lee Corso do?
You said what?
What does Lee Corso do? Not so fast, because it's a good pick right there. That's a good pick right there.
I don't have much to say about that. Alabama is just a far superior team. Oklahoma, I don't care if they're at home, away, on Mars. Doesn't matter. They stink. Give me Alabama by at least a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah. All right. My pick 6 got the game on right now. I got Georgia Tech minus 8.5. I accidentally gave it to you last week. Giving it to you again this week because they're actually playing.
I was going to say, you're probably right.
Week early.
Like I said last week.
Yeah, I think just offensive line play for Georgia Tech is going to be the difference. Their run game, I just think they're the more physical and well put together football team.
Probably a good coach team too.
Yeah, just
Don't get me
NC
started on
State's,
that.
not what we thought they would be at the beginning of the year. We mentioned it a little bit. I like Colorado this weekend. Give me the minus 2.5 at Kansas. I just don't think Kansas can do it back-to-back weeks. Yeah. I think this is when Travis Hunter locks in for the Heisman, and you might see Shadur lock in for the number 1 pick. Yeah. Number 2, I got a fun spot here. We talked about how sneaky this weekend could be. Minnesota's got Penn State at home. Give me Minnesota and a half, getting 11.5.
Minnesota and a half.
Minnesota.
Give me Minnesota getting the 11.5.
There you go.
Like I said earlier, good pick, Paul. I also have Bama minus the 13.5. Oklahoma is the new Vanderbilt of the Southeastern Conference. Yeah, they're a joke. Don't really have anything nice to say about them. I think Alabama rolls big here. Talked about it. I think Indiana's fixing to get slaughtered. I think the Cinderella story comes to an end. They're going to get out-physicaled on both ends of the line of scrimmage, and you're going to see what 5-star athletes look like. against a team that's got a bunch of transfers from JMU.
Yeah.
Ohio State wins big. SMU giving 9.5 points to a feisty UVA team at UAV.
UAV.
We're playing some Call of Duty, baby. We can see our enemies. There is a UAV inbound.
University
I'm
of
on
Alabama.
so much
that's
allergy medicine right now.
I'm still getting ready to ask.
UVA
I'm
is
still
what
waiting
he
to
wants
ask
to
what
say.
Minnesota and a half is. That's going to
I
be
don't know,
after the show comes.
We might get a bowl game, Minnesota and a half versus UAV.
Yeah. UVA. But I like the ponies here.
Yeah.
I think they keep on cooking, and we'll see them play either Miami or Clemson. We got a chat. When that come?
Hello.
Minnesota and a half is a bar. I appreciate it. It'd be cold like Minnesota.
All right, well, yeah. Cold like Minnesota. Wasn't
Trying to get my
that
head in.
trash song?
What was the one we were talking about on NCAA the other day, Matt? I'm gonna get a mansion. Oh, that was Wisconsin. That was Wisconsin. But yeah, that's my pick 6. I was 2-4 last week, so maybe
I
fade me.
was also 2-4.
That leads us with.
At least I think I was.
That leads us with 2 more segments left and one big one. Like I said at the beginning of the episode, as Kid Rock once said, we're heading out west, sucker. Heading out west to play North Texas Mean Green. They're favored by 2.5 points. One of the largest totals I've seen in a while.
Ballooning.
73.5 points is the total.
It's so funny. It's a
And
basketball
if
sport.
I run through North Texas's points this year, you might think over. Because good
Yeah.
God, did they score and they can't play defense.
They pass the ball so well.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
And that's one of my keys to the game here. And I'll jump through those real quick. Junior quarterback Chandler Morris has thrown for 3,328 yards. That's 4th in the nation. He's throwing at 63.6% completion rating. Pretty darn good if you're asking me. You love to be above that 65 mark, but hovering around that is pretty good.
That'll work.
27 TDs is 2nd in the nation.
Yep.
I'm going to counter that.
12
Is
picks.
He's got 12 picks.
He's got 12 picks.
A third of those interceptions are in the last 2 games. In the last 2 games, he has thrown 1 touchdown and 4 interceptions
Hey.
against a ball-hawking East Carolina Pirates defense. Ball-hawking.
Burned over the top.
They also just fired their defensive coordinator.
Hey, that is actually
After losing 4 straight
a
games.
huge note.
They just fired their defensive coordinator. I think they almost gave up.
Yeah,
They might have gave up over 600 yards of
They've
offense.
been on a horrible. They're like a G5 version of LSU last year, or they can score at will. They can pass all over the yard, but God, that defense is.
I'm going to pull up their schedule if you want to make some points, and I'll just kind of run through these grotesque scores.
I don't have a
They
lot
also
of.
have two plus 500-yard receivers, so there's 2 guys to
That
look
is
out
true.
for on the
That is
outside.
true. Yeah, Sheffield, I know, leads them in
Yeah.
receiving. He's got
He's got 7
under.
something, yeah.
I don't have a lot of intricate points to this game. Like you said, this game hinges on basically when ECU has the ball. If we can put an offense together, just a completely different sport than what we saw Thursday last week against Tulsa. Because it's got to be just the inverse of what we saw for the first half of that game. But this defense for North Texas has, like you said, has shown that they are very willing to give up points and yards.
It's big fashions.
So I think we'll have no problems driving down the field on them. It's a matter of if we can get over the hump, put the ball in the end zone.
Yeah,
which we've
UTSA
struggled
had
with sometimes.
681 yards
Against
against
the team
them.
that we beat.
Yeah, 681 yards. And just to read through Chandler Morris's stats, he was 21 for 36 for 241, 1 touchdown, and 2 interceptions.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could also, for the sake of argument, we could
And
talk about what Caden Hauser did last year.
yeah,
Which I think it was somewhat of an anomaly, but
I
it
agree.
did happen. It did happen.
Now, I think, and I know you guys are in a little different boat than me. We talked a little bit about this at trivia. Actually, I'm going to bring this up right after I go through their scores,
Okay.
just for fun, because I think it is kind of funny. They've scored 52 points, 35 points, 21 points in a loss, 44 points, 52 points, 41 points, 44 points in a loss, 37 points in a loss, then 3 against Army. So that's kind of that 2-game stretch I was talking about. Kind of hard when one of those games is against Army, and then 27 in a loss to UTSA last week. We spoke on this Wednesday. You guys, I think, are fully on board the train, the Blake train.
Yes, 100%.
I am still holding out. I don't really know why.
I'm somewhat holding out just because we don't know what.
He's got to win this weekend.
He does.
He wins Saturday, and I'm on the front of the train.
Exactly.
You can strap me to the front
I'm
of it.
still
Now,
not there.
you can strap me to the front of it, and I'll dial whatever cliff it
I
runs
bought
off
a ticket.
of.
Put it that way. I'm not on the train yet. We win here. And it doesn't need to be convincingly. It could be by half a point. It could be by half of Minnesota. I'm buying a ticket. I'm not on the train, I'm buying the ticket.
I'm up there with a scoop shovel shoveling coal into the damn furnace if we win this weekend.
I didn't buy a ticket that you can't cancel. I can get my refund.
There you go.
The refund is still
So
available.
I'm already up there towards the front of the train. I'm just also, we don't know what opportunities could present themselves. And
Train talk.
we don't know what opportunities could present themselves in the coming weeks. So that's why I'm holding out a little bit, but he is far and away leader in the clubhouse for me right now. The way that he showed love to the students this week and inviting a bunch of them to practice and just showing his respect to them and his admiration for them, and the fact that this fan base pretty quickly in the last few weeks has done the same towards him. It just feels like a character, chemistry, all of that stuff kind of
He's won 4 straight games.
Exactly.
I mean, it's hard to. He's won 4 straight games. The offense looks good. I get the hype
with a greasy away game in there that was tried to be
taken away from
exactly.
Yeah.
I was about to say grammatics. Grammar.
English. English doesn't work.
No habla inglés.
Who's on a lot of medication here? You or me?
I got off work at 7:30. Give me a break.
Fair enough.
Long day.
It's you give me a win here, and I don't care about how much. You give me a win here. There's another interception.
That's the worst pass ever.
No, you watched the ECU play last week.
Yeah.
We did see the worst passes ever.
I still am holding out to the Navy game. I want to see how close he can keep that, because that game, as much as I don't think we have a donkey dick's chance in hell of winning that game.
We are going to get banned from YouTube.
They've not looked great lately, Navy.
No, they have not, but it's going to take a sound, disciplined game to stay in it with Navy, let alone win.
I think we learned.
If you can look disciplined and keep that game close, you can coach. You can go on the road, you can win, you can coach. I mean, 2 road wins. The home wins are great. It's easy to win at home. It's easy to win at home, especially against bad competition. We ain't really played nobody, Paul. And North Texas ain't nobody.
Yeah.
You win 2 games on the road in conference, and you play a tough one Thanksgiving, the day after Thanksgiving against Navy, and maybe beat them.
Especially if he
Hire the guy.
100%. I think if he goes into North Texas this weekend against a pretty talented, just haven't played very well lately North Texas team.
Yeah.
I think that he's earned himself the job.
Yeah.
The Mean Green, by the way, when I
already think that he's leading the clubhouse. Like I mentioned.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think he's the leader in the clubhouse. I said this when we brought it up like early on when we were talking about the coach stuff. I worry about hiring within just from a comfortability standpoint of it looks because you're scared to lose him. Because if we hire somebody else, he's gone.
A guy like that, I'm very scared to lose him.
We've made that mistake in the past.
Yeah.
And we don't want to do it again. We paid for it. It cost us.
He gets, let's say Navy rodeos us. That's some cause for concern. You still hire him, from what I'm gathering from you two. You would still hire him.
Oh, never mind. Yes.
I just worry about
at that point. Focus shifts to the ball game, and we see what we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we go out there and
embarrass, I'm not fully on the train.
If we go out there and embarrass ourselves the last 2 weeks of the season, then we'd have to have some serious conversations. I just don't see us doing it.
I need to see him coach in some big games. I need to see it, and the Navy's as big as it's going to get. Honestly, Navy's as big as it's going to get.
This game's a pretty big game too.
I mean, we can still mess around being an 8-win football team.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
And if you would have told us that in week 4, I don't think any of us would have. We'd have said you're crazy.
Exactly.
Said you're doing the donkey thing.
Sitting there after if you told us that after the loss to Army to go 3-4, that at the end of the
Going down
season we'd
the
have 8
stretch,
wins
yeah.
and finish 8-5 with the only loss being the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I'd have said, go smoke another one, bro. Like what are you talking about? Yeah, overperform from where we started the season.
Exactly.
At this moment already.
Matt, score prediction for funsies.
Well, yeah, don't sound like these guys can really.
They're covering
Score
machines.
They're
covering machines too.
So
that's what scares me.
I'll take.
Well, ECU's hit their last 5 overs.
They've hit. North Texas is covered. Is 10-0 against the spread.
I've said all year that ECU. This is a trap game for ECU. This is a game ECU's.
That's why I wanted to start with you.
Score prediction. After watching the last couple weeks and the changes we made, I think we got a good chance to win this game.
I think so too.
Give me Pirates 42-38. Damn. And hit the over. Why not?
Over.
You took mine for.
I will let them.
You took exactly what my score prediction.
So I just need to carry that one down. Then.
I'm gonna go 43-37. How about that?
Yeah. Get spicy with
We
it.
beat them by even more.
Paul's a big prime number guy.
Oh my god, yeah.
Big time.
43. The number of Allen Robertson career touchdowns.
Yeah,
that is true.
I'm gonna go 38-35. Roll Pirates roll. We're going ECU across the board here.
We're not biased at all.
No,
I picked against ECU a few times.
No,
I'm the least biased one here.
That is true.
I might have my diploma from there, but they have to convince me to be a football fan most of the time. Now, come baseball season, might have an announcement about that soon.
No, if that doesn't sound like an ECU fan, I don't know what does.
Give me some Pirate baseball. I'm gonna go clear the large thing that's in my throat while you run through some jerseys.
All right.
Ayo. Ayo.
Never know what's going to happen next on the Downey Sports Show.
Especially on this episode, we've been off the wall. All right, getting into some uniform talk. Uniform of the week. Well, it's one that we've seen before, but the Houston Oilers inspired uniforms, those baby blues and reds. They're bringing those back this week, and they are a chef's kiss uniform. That's how I'm going to describe them. That's the category that they fall into. They are gorgeous. That's my uniform of the week. My uniform matchup of the week. I got another chef's kiss for you. Brand new white look for LSU. New gold jerseys for the Tigers against black and white for Vandy. I think that's going to be a great looking matchup down on the Bayou. My favorite helmet of this week is the Malama Lahaina Utah uniforms. They're hand painted, which they always have at least one or two crazy hand painted helmets every season. Utah does, but this one's kind of honoring the Polynesian sort of culture that they got in their program. A lot of guys on their team of Polynesian descent, and they are just so sick. So if you're looking for a good helmet game to watch, go watch Utah. The all-white Mahomes branded Texas Tech uniforms this week are so clean. They're just white with mainly black lettering, numbers, stripes, all that, with just a little bit of hints of red, they're very good looking. Some Gothic inspired. How about inspired? Shamrock Series uniforms for Notre Dame this weekend. They're going to be looking pretty good. Just big chrome gold numbers and logo on the sleeves. Notre Dame's going to be looking right. And then not even involving this week, but it's that time of year where Army and Navy unveil their Army-Navy game uniforms, which are always good. They never miss. But, oh, my God, are they good this year.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. We're not going to flash pictures up. We're not that technologically advanced over here.
No.
Can't even say the word technologically advanced.
Both their jerseys are sweet. I mean, they are every year.
They are looking beautiful this year. That's about all I got for jersey talk. I don't think I missed anything. Actually, before we go, what is ECU wearing on Saturday? Because that should be announced by now.
You'll be able to. You're already on Twitter.
Let's see. We are going with
at all.
Modern throwback, white helmets, beautiful. White jerseys, and gold pants. We're going to be looking nice this weekend. It's going to be, honestly, North Texas always has a decent look, too.
Yeah.
That's another great uniform matchup, especially with the Pirates rocking what they're wearing. So I like that. I got nothing else.
Yeah, I think that about does it. We'll give a couple minutes for the chat, or a minute or two for the chat. That probably wraps it up for week 13. We'll probably look for an announcement on Twitter about next week's show. We'll probably discuss post-show on what we're going to do, considering Thursday is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Whether it be pre-recorded or maybe we go Friday, or we'll figure it out.
Then again, Friday is the ECU Navy game. So
that's what I'm. It
like,
might
are we
be
going to go from the parking lot?
maybe.
Okay,
That's kind of
I enjoyed that when we did last time. A
Yeah.
little quick hitter from SPC.
So we'll figure out what we're doing next week. If for whatever reason you're one of the handful of people that is watching on YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, tell a friend. For the larger community that's on Twitter and has been supporting us for the long haul here, we really appreciate it. Numbers have been consistent throughout the season. We've had a lot of fun doing this. Don't really have a plan post Thanksgiving. That's something I guess we need to kind of think about. But yeah,
I'm thinking low key we might want to do a reaction show to the playoff races.
Yeah, something like that.
After
We'll figure.
weekend. We'll
Stay
figure
posted on
out.
Twitter for kind of what the plan is after week 14. But
And if you have any just like Twitter things you'd like us to talk about, just like random fun topics, like our top 5 blank, whether it's like favorite players ever in college football, or helmets, or if you want to see us just do any random stuff.
we might do one.
We need to get the Twitter account more active.
Yeah, we might revisit some stuff. Maybe go through our conference games of the years and some of the stuff earlier in the year. In Army Navy week.
The year in review.
Year in review
of our picks, and just honestly what happened.
/ reaction. I don't know. We'll figure something out. So just stay posted on Twitter. Give us a follow. Tell a friend. Like and retweet the streams. Tweet at us, like Paul said, whenever questions, topics. I mean, maybe we'll start doing quick hitter videos, stuff like that. And then if not, we'll see y'all when you see you. Thanks for tuning in to Down East Sports, and have a good night.